Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, welcome back to the podcast and the YouTube channel. Sal Vetri here, and today we're doing some mocking. It's a Friday, so why not sit back, relax, crack our knuckles a little bit, and do some mocking right now. So I'm pretty excited for this one. I have a bit of a strategy, as you can see if you're watching on the YouTube. I am starting this off in the one spot. This is going to be a 2 flex. So you have 2 flexes. I think it's 6 bench spots. So a lot of roster spots here. I think we're going to be going as I scroll through this. No kicker, no defense. I'm personally not interested in drafting those in mocks. I'm not even interested in drafting those in leagues. I sent out a Google form, very easy to do, totally free, takes literally 10 seconds, to my main league that I've been playing in for 10 years, 8 years, something like that. And I pretty much just asked them what they want to do. And some questions on there were, do you want to have kickers this year? Do you want to have defenses? We'll see. It's currently in polling. It's kind of 50-50 right now. So I'm hoping kickers and defenses are out of this league. I'll just take one for this year though, but we're going to do about 15 rounds here. I personally, if this was my main league, would be going 18 to 22. 22 rounds is nice. Yeah, your waivers start to get a little bit thin, even though there's still some nice options. You just get to really take advantage of the draft at that point. Like if you're somebody watching this video right now, you obviously care about fantasy football more than the average person, because the average person doesn't research on YouTube and doesn't research by getting draft guides and whatever else. So get as many players as you can on your team before the actual season starts, so that you don't have to worry about going out there after week 1 and picking up guys and hoping that you spend your fab bucks, your free agent dollars, or you just get lucky with the waivers that week because you finished last in week 1. We don't want to be rooting to lose for the waivers. We just want to get those guys on our team. So just a little bit of a word of advice. I would send out some Google Forms. Some of the other things on the list is just some random stuff on there was, do we want to do super flex? How many flex spots do we want to have? 2, 3, or 4? I think right now 3 is edging out a lot of the other options. So I think that's pretty good. Kickers and defenses, your PPR, your quarterback points, 6 or 4, those types of things. It's always fun to have more ways to score points. You just have to make sure that you have that set ahead of time so everybody knows the expectations of the league for that year, scoring wise and just overall roster construction wise. Welcome if you're brand new here. We like to just do some mocks on Fridays. I appreciate all of you. This video is going to be going out right around the beginning of August. I'm recording it in a little around middle of July. So if anything major breaks news wise, right? I draft somebody at the 101. I draft Christian McCaffrey, and some awful news comes out that he's not going to be playing for the first 6 weeks, right? Something like that. Just something crazy happens. The reason that it's not accounted for is because this is being currently drafted the 2nd week of July, and it's going to be scheduled out because when you're watching this, I'm actually going to be currently traveling. So I want to make sure I have some videos backlogged for that. So thank you for bearing with me if any major news like Deebo Samuel already has broken, or if anybody gets a running back goes to a certain backfield and it makes it a little bit messier and some running back still goes high in this draft, that would be why. So we're drafting from the 1-1. It's going to be a 12-team, 15 rounds PPR format. But again, you're starting 2 flex spots and you're going to have, I think, like 5 or 6 bench spots in this league. Everything else is going to be pretty standard in terms of PPR scoring, just 1 quarterback. So I can get you to hit the like button before we get into this one, and the big subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. If you're just cracking into my videos or only seen a few of them, or even if you've seen a bunch, I do have a 2020 fantasy football playlist that's totally free on YouTube. And at this point, by the time you're watching, there's probably close to like 90 videos in there. By the time the season starts, there's going to be around 120 or so. And again, you can just go through and watch those videos and get as much information as you'd like. If you want even more information, right now my Supreme Draft Guide is out on Fantasy Sports Focus. You can get it right here on the Supreme Draft Guide site, Fantasy Sports Focus. Everything is linked down below. Thanks to the sponsor of this video and all of my NFL videos for 2020 fantasy football season long, Monkey Knife Fight, the logo up above. It's just $10. So go ahead, get it for $10 right now. What are you waiting for? And if you do, it's linked down below. You'll also get a free ticket on Monkey Knife Fight. So you get a free ticket, you get the $10 on Monkey Knife Fight, and you get the Supreme Draft Guide just for $10. It's a $30 value, the Supreme Draft Guide. Overall, it's like a $45 value for just $10. So go ahead. There's my sales pitch to you. Any questions, you can reach out down below in the comment section or Twitter at SalVetriDFS. So without further ado, I got my rankings up here that are in the Supreme Draft Guide. All the other stuff is, you can read all the descriptions on the landing page, key stats, player profiles, all that type of stuff, tiers. But let's go ahead. Let's start this bad boy up with the 1-1 right now. Let us begin the draft. So I'm beginning the draft. I obviously automatically start at the 1-1 here. So it's obvious Christian McCaffrey is a consensus at this point. And obviously with Teddy Bridgewater there, I think it's even better for him. He was able to do what he did last year with the bad players at quarterback and Kyle Allen and Will Grier and Cam Newton injured for a couple of games and really the 1.5 games that he was able to play. So I do think that Saquon and Christian McCaffrey are close. In my tiers right now for PPR, if I just pull it up here, I only have 2 running backs in tier 1, and it is Christian McCaffrey and Saquon. So they are sort of ahead of, like, Saquon is a pretty step ahead of Kamara, Zeke, Mixon, Cook, all those guys for me personally. I actually do like getting to Saquon in some of my spots. So if you're drafting a ton this year and all you're ending up with is like Christian McCaffrey, and then after that you're never getting any Saquon, it's all Zeke's and it's all Kamara's. In terms of game theory of just having a piece of Saquon this year in one of your drafts, I don't hate drafting him. I'm still debating if I want to take Saquon over McCaffrey. I have McCaffrey statted out for more points. I have McCaffrey higher, but just regression. It's been since you're drafting him for his floor, not his ceiling. You got his ceiling last year with obviously his floor as well because of the touches, but the floor of him finishing as a top 5 running back is almost so solid out there. Now he's been very durable. That can always change. It changed for Saquon last year in his second year, right? It's changed for Kamara last year after he rolled an ankle and was really injured and limited for about 5 or 6 weeks and evaded tackles. You saw that go down. We're going to take McCaffrey here and we're going to go from there. Again, Saquon is very close for me. It's a lot closer than probably most people are going to be ranking it at least. So I'll talk about my strategy as some of these picks go off the board next. So you can see we've had about 6 picks go off the board. Alvin Kamara actually went second, then Saquon, then Dalvin Cook. So obviously holdout concerns are not much of a concern here in this draft. Michael Thomas and Zeke. Getting Zeke at the 1-6 is fantastic in my opinion. I would have drafted him at the 1-3. But pretty much my strategy at the 1-1 is going to be just I'm really trying to get 4 running backs in a row. Now, since I'm at a turn here, right, I go 2-12 and then 3-1. It'll be somewhat easy to get 3 running backs in a row that I like, but then once the end of the 4th round comes, it's going to be very difficult to get another running back. So the reason I want to go 3 in a row is if I go 2 in a row, back-to-back is always my goal here, and then I go wide receiver in the 3rd round. By the time the draft comes all the way back around to me at the 4th and 5th round pick, maybe there'll be like a David Montgomery there. Maybe there'll be like a Cam Akers there, but that's maybe my best pick. So I'd rather have those guys as my 4th running back option, secure running back for the draft, not have to take another running back the entire draft, instead of that being my 3rd running back and then my 4th running back just being some rookie later on. I like the idea of starting with 4 running backs in a row in this draft, the 1 spot. I haven't tried that from the 1 spot yet. I want to see what it looks like and how bare a running back gets once my 4th round pick comes around at the end of the 4th round, the 4-12. So the 1st round ends with 8 running backs taken and 4 wide receivers. So actually a decent amount of wide receivers compared to usual. Usually in like drafts I'm doing, I'm getting like 10 running backs in the 1st round. Notables that were not drafted in the 1st round. Joe Mixon, not drafted in the 1st round. We'll see where he goes in the 2nd round. That's probably about it. We might start to see Lamar and Patrick Mahomes go in this round. Other than that, not really anything surprising. The 4 wide receivers that went in the 1st round, I really don't want to take a wide receiver in the 1st round, but they all deserve it. I would say that Josh Jacobs in the 1st round, it's nothing shocking at the 110. He is right now in my rankings a top 10 running back for me, so it's nothing shocking that he goes off the board as the 7th running back. It's a little bit ahead of what I would do, but that's fine. Kenyon Drake is my running back 11. He goes off the board as the running back, I believe, 8 in this one, end of the 1st round. Again, that's a fine spot, especially if this guy's smart here, I would hammer Joe Mixon or Miles Sanders, right? One of those guys. If you're starting with a Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, Joe Mixon, Kenyon Drake type of a build, I really like that. So we'll see what ends up happening. I'm hoping something falls to me, right? I'm so far away at this point that as long as a couple of running backs continue to drop, maybe I can tap back-to-back like Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, something like that, right? I doubt Austin Eckler falls all the way to me. I think there's no shot Mixon, Chubb, or Sanders do. But if those guys are taken, at least before me, it'll leave some guys on the table. The goal would be to try and get like 2 or 3 of Eckler, Gurley, Fournette, those types of guys. I mean, I wouldn't hate getting to Chris Carson or Gordon as my RB3. I just would rather get some of those other guys. So let's see what happens as the 2nd round goes on. So I'm about 4 picks from my spot. I want to update you on where we are because a lot of running backs just went. So 5 running backs go with the first 8 picks. We get a first quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, normally where he goes at the end of the 2nd round. Honestly, by the time the season starts, I'm not shocked to see Mahomes or Lamar starting to go like beginning of the 2nd, end of the 1st round when a lot of casuals come in and really want to start drafting quarterbacks in 6-point touchdown leagues. I think it's actually a little bit more reasonable, although I'm not going to be doing it. I think the guy who's drafting 12th in this league, he just stacked the Cardinals offense, right? Kenyon Drake and DeAndre Hopkins. First of all, I don't really like that because I think Hopkins, 13th pick overall, it's fine. I think in my overall rankings, I'm not that high on Hopkins this year. I made videos specifically. I'm kind of calling out Hopkins that I'm not going to be getting there. Hopkins for me overall right now is my 17th overall ranked player. So 13th overall, I'm not getting him, especially when you factor in the strategy of trying to go back-to-back running backs. There's just no way for me. Like what he had on the board there was Miles Sanders, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones and Eckler, still guys like Todd Gurley. Where he's drafting, I would have gone Joe Mixon in a heartbeat. Getting him at the beginning of the 2nd round is a steal, but then goes off the board. Miles Sanders, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones in a row. 4 guys in a row like that. My heart starts beating a little bit, right? So that's not great. My best available at that point were Austin Eckler, Todd Gurley, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Leonard Fournette in that order. Austin Eckler is now gone. We are 3 picks away from my pick. I would be happy here at the end of this. I would really like to double tap Todd Gurley and Leonard Fournette. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't want to be drafting. Like if I draft him on my third pick, that's fine. Don't really want to be relying on him as my RB2. I think the upside is surely there. I don't think people are weighing in the downside as much. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire often going now as like a middle second round pick to me. There's more risk in that pick than anything else. The beat writers have already said Damian Williams is going to play at least 50% of the snaps, if not 60 to 70% of the snaps to start the year because of his pass protection, because of the fact that he is a veteran who's had an offseason, a productive veteran at that manner. And you're going to just have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a rookie, coming in with his worst skill being pass protection, and you just signed a potentially $500 million deal. Although Mahomes is never going to see that amount of money, at least in this contract. He would have to, I think it was like he would have to go to the Super Bowl and win MVP in the regular season like 7 years in a row for that to happen. That's just not going to happen if they get all those incentives. But anyways, like you need to protect that guy, and also just the fact that there's no rookie camp is not going to help Clyde. So let's see what happens with these last 3 picks. I would like to go back-to-back running back as long as there's decent ones left, and it works out perfectly for me. I don't even have to make the decision on Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he goes right before me. The entire Chiefs offense goes right in these last couple of picks. Mahomes, then it goes Lamar Jackson, Travis Kelce first, tight end off the board, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I'm looking at this right now, and I got back-to-back picks here. I think I'm going to double tap what I want to double tap, and I like the way that sounds. I'm going to double tap what I want to double tap. I might have to put that on a t-shirt. Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, Chris Carson, Jonathan Taylor, David Johnson, my remaining top 20 running backs in my rankings. It's kind of easy here for me. I want Todd Gurley. I want a guy in Leonard Fournette. Now, Kenny Golladay has lasted to the end of the second. He could be I could take him right at the beginning of the third round here. I would like to do this, but my issue is that I don't pick again for like 23 picks after this. So at that point, I'm going to imagine every decent running back is going to be off the board. Like maybe I can get a Kareem Hunt. But I don't want to be risking that as my RB3. The fact that I can lock up Todd Gurley, I can lock up Leonard Fournette, guys who should be in line for 300 plus touch seasons if healthy here. I like that a lot. Leonard Fournette in a contract year. I'm not worried about Chris Thompson. I think that Laviska Shenault is a very good rookie coming out, one of the most athletic, if not the most athletic rookies coming out. But I'm not going to be jumping on the narrative that everybody else is, that's saying he's just going to automatically be a running back and take catches and receptions away from Fournette. Obviously, any wide receiver coming in is going to take away some target share, but why wouldn't that take it away from Chris Conley and Dede Westbrook more than Leonard Fournette, your running back? Sure, if they want to get innovative and put Shenault in the backfield for 2 or 3 plays a game, which even that might be a lot, then fine. That might take away 1 reception a game, 1 target a game from Fournette, and even that's a high number. So I'm not getting too up and down about it. So let's just draft Todd Gurley here, a guy who has no backups, a guy who was healthy last season, 6th most snaps in the NFL at the running back position, 76% for the Rams, like in behind the last ranked offensive line, dead last Rams offensive line last year. His knee, by all accounts, last year was healthy. I'm not too concerned about it being not healthy this year, in my opinion. And then let's go right double tap Leonard Fournette here. So now I'm starting this draft off with 3 workhorse running backs. I actually love this. The fact that I can build in this many touches. McCaffrey over 400 last year. We're not going to bank on that again, but if McCaffrey's healthy, you're going to see 350 plus touches. It's just that simple. He's going to see somewhere around 280 on the ground. He's going to at least see 70 receptions with a lot more upside there if healthy. Right, Todd Gurley, you're going to see 250 touches on the ground, and then this is a guy who can catch 50 balls in a year. Even if it's 30, it's flirting with 300. And Leonard Fournette, you just saw him go for 350 last year. The guy's an absolute beast. Even if he sees a regression in his passing game role, I'm not worried about Chris Thompson. We talked about Laviska Shenault. I still think he's going to run a lot of routes, second only to Christian McCaffrey in routes run at the running back position last year. And I think he's obviously going to come down from regression of just 3 touchdowns last year. So I love the way that this started. I love the fact that Todd Gurley and Leonard Fournette fell to me. Now, when my 4th round pick comes around, we'll talk about the end of the 3rd round once we get there, but there's going to be a lot of guys off the board by then. I'm probably going to be looking at a wide receiver and a running back with those picks. I feel good about it. Get my 4th running back and be done with running back for the draft. I would take a wide receiver with one of those picks. It doesn't matter which one since I get back to back. But then for round 6, 7, 8, and maybe even 9, I'm just going to hammer wide receiver at that point. Wait on quarterback, wait on tight ends. And at that point, I would have 4 solid running backs that I don't have to worry about drafting flyers later on, and then probably 4 or 5 wide receivers. And based on the volume of wide receivers that I'm getting in the middle rounds, and there's some good wide receivers there, I think this is the ideal draft strategy. Let's see how the rest of the 3rd round plays out. So the 3rd round goes just pretty much heavy on running backs and wide receivers. George Kittle goes off the board. Allen Robinson goes at the 3-5, pretty solid pick, but Kenny Golladay goes at the 3-6. Kenny Golladay is my wide receiver 5, and I believe he went off the board as like wide receiver 10. So really good value there. That team now has Zeke, Austin Eckler, and Kenny Golladay. I like that. Trying to look at other teams that are doing what I'm doing, 3 running backs in a row. Only one team ended up accomplishing that. It was team 10. They got Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, and Le'Veon Bell. I don't hate that. I think that's actually pretty solid. I probably would have drafted either Chris Carson or Melvin Gordon instead of Le'Veon Bell there. Those were like the two best running backs available at that point. Maybe even David Montgomery, but there's a chance that David Montgomery can come back on the turn and this guy can snag 4 running backs in a row. And I would probably do that. Like at this point at the turn, this guy can either get he's 2 picks away. We'll see what ends up happening. He can get one of Chris Carson, Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt, Devin Singletary. I'm probably going to be drafting 4 running backs in a row if I'm him, if Chris Carson or David Montgomery fall, maybe even if Jonathan Taylor is there. And one of them is going to be there based on the fact that he drafts in 3 picks. Other than that, just James Conner went a little bit earlier than I would think. Conner's my RB23. He went like ahead of like 5 or 6 guys in my rankings. Nothing crazy there though. So let's see what ends up happening as the 4th round goes on. Still a lot of good running backs on the board. Like with that 4th and 5th round turn, I would be fine drafting Carson and Jonathan Taylor. I don't think they're going to make it to me. David Montgomery might make it to me. Don't really want to be drafting Devin Singletary. But then guys like Kareem Hunt and Cam Akers are still there. So there's still like 5 running backs on the board I'm looking at. Hopefully they all don't go before my pick. Let's see what starts happening as we enter the 4th round. As you can see behind my head a little bit right now. I'll scroll it up. All right, so I'm about 2 picks away, and we're sitting in a very good spot. We're going to guarantee ourselves one of the running backs that we want him. I can say I'll take him. It's a technicality at this point. I could take him in the 4th round and just say I took 4 running backs in a row, but I'm drafting back-to-back, so it doesn't really matter where I take him. But Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Cam Akers, and Kareem Hunt are all still left on the board, and I draft in 2 picks. So even if 2 of those guys go, I feel good about it. I like Jonathan Taylor here with the 4th or 5th round pick, David Montgomery definitely, and then I'm fine with Cam Akers or Kareem Hunt as well. Looking at the wide receivers, though, a lot of wide receivers I was hoping would be there at the turn have already fallen. Robert Woods just went. A.J. Brown just went. Those are guys that I thought might make it to me. Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley went at the beginning of the round. Didn't think those guys were going to make it to me, but I'm still in a spot here when I lock up 4 or 5 wide receivers in a row in these middle rounds. I can still start landing guys like Terry McLaurin, Jarvis Landry. I mean, right now at this turn, I'll still have an opportunity to take Keenan Allen, Steph Diggs, DJ Shark, all these types of players. Let's see what ends up happening here in these next 2 picks. So David Montgomery went at the 410. He was actually the guy that I was looking at, and then Zach Ertz goes. So I'm in a position right now where I can just take one of these wide receivers, Tyler Lockett, Steph Diggs, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf. They would be my wide receiver 1, but again, I'm going to load up a bunch, so I don't feel too bad about that. All these wide receivers are going to be gone, though, like DJ Shark, T.Y. Hilton. They'll all probably be gone by my next pick. So locking up one of them here, I really have to just choose the one that I think has the most upside, because then I can get consistency in the middle rounds. But at the running back position, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt are still left. I like both the rookies in Taylor, Akers. I think they're fine. Kareem Hunt obviously has his role, but we already have stability. We have Leonard Fournette, Todd Gurley, and Christian McCaffrey right now. That's a ton of stability. So I'm going to go ahead and take Jonathan Taylor here, because by the midway point of the season, he can be a top 10 running back week in and week out. And even if he flames out and he never gets that opportunity, he's not burning and burying my team based on the fact that I have McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, and Leonard Fournette. So we get our 4 running backs. We're pretty much done for the draft. If I wanted to be an absolute psychopath here, I can just go and take either Cam Akers or Kareem Hunt and just really screw this whole entire board over by getting a ton of running backs. And I'm honestly not totally against it, because in the 5th round, Kareem Hunt or Cam Akers is a very good pick to me. And I'm looking at the wide receiver position. Quarterback, no. Tight end, definitely nothing stands out, and I don't want it. But the wide receiver position is kind of this gap. Like right now, I feel like I would have to reach on a Terry McLaurin or a DK Metcalf, somebody like that that's not worthy of this early 5th round pick, just because of the fact that I'm drafting early on. Like in my rankings, I have Steph Diggs, Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen as my best available. None of those guys really scream out, yes, this is a very good and consistent player at this spot. Sure, Tyler Lockett has been consistent, but coming into an age 28 season with DK Metcalf there pressing him, I kind of look at this and say DJ Shark might be my pick here. Like I like Shark, I like Terry McLaurin, but those are types of guys that usually go at the end of the 5th round. So it is definitely a reach. I love DK Metcalf. He's in my must draft wide receiver videos. He's in the same exact range as those 2nd-year type players in McLaurin's and DK Metcalf's, and Shark breaking out a little bit later than that. So looking at the board right now, it's a decision between consistency and stability and sort of a floor in Steph Diggs, Keenan Allen, and Tyler Lockett, or the upside type plays in what could be DJ Shark, Terry McLaurin, what could be like top 10 wide receiver type seasons if everything clicks for them. I think I might go ahead here at the wide receiver position, and I might draft DJ Shark and then just get a bunch of volume. It's either going to come down to Metcalf or Shark for me at this point. Metcalf obviously has the better quarterback, at least at this point, definitely Russell Wilson. So he has more competition, I would say. Laviska Shenault coming in is going to be competition for a guy in DJ Shark, although I think he's by all means has an opportunity to really break out this year. So does DK Metcalf. So looking at this, more volume in passing is more than likely going to be there in Jacksonville, but if there's a spike in Seattle, it's going to erupt DK Metcalf to like a 1,200-yard season. So looking at it right now, let's end up going to, it's between Shark and Metcalf at this point in my decision. Metcalf's higher in my rankings. I'll trust the rankings here, and we're going to go and get a bunch of wide receivers now. So I'm going to go through and probably draft 4 the 5 wide receivers in a row. Since we're already filled at our running back position. Let's see what happens as the 5th round goes on. I would love for somehow like a McLaurin or somebody to drop to me. Even a Jarvis Landry would make me feel real good. So let's see what ends up happening at the end of the 5th round. So a ton of wide receivers go, a bunch that I wanted. It's to be expected at this point. Like Terry McLaurin, DJ Shark just went with the last pick in the 5th round. Terry McLaurin went right around there. All the running backs that I think were decent went off the board. This donkey drafting at the 5-3, ended up drafting Raheem Mostert at the 5-3, and even Mark Ingram at the 5-4, ahead of guys like Kareem Hunt and Cam Akers is just such a mistake. You want a 28-and-a-half-year-old back in Raheem Mostert, who's already saying that he wants to be traded, even though he has 0 leverage. A guy who's shown literally 6 weeks of production, if you count the playoffs, like 8 weeks of production in his entire NFL career, and he's 28-and-a-half years old, over guys like Kareem Hunt, who have insane running back 1 breakout years on their resume, obviously great pass catching role, and then Cam Akers, who's just upside at that point. You already have James Conner and David Montgomery on your team. I don't really know what he was doing here. He also has Saquon, so like Raheem Mostert, when you have these 3 stable pieces, like David Montgomery, Saquon, pretty secure touches, Conner, if healthy, should be secure. I don't know why you go with this type of a flaky pick, but I guess it's just research at that point. So I'm a little bit disappointed with all the wide receivers that went off the board. They're all guys that I liked. Steph Diggs is still on the board. He's probably not making it to me, but he stands out. Guys like AJ Green, Jarvis Landry. The good thing is I get to go back-to-back picks. So I'm looking like right now I might be able to snag maybe like a Jarvis Landry, Julian Edelman. That would be ideal at this point, but we'll see what ends up making it as the 6th round goes on. Let's evaluate what happens. All right, so we're 2 picks away, and I really benefited. So Steph Diggs goes actually right at the beginning of that round, and then Hollywood Brown goes. I don't think it's a reach on Brown. Actually, I think that's fine, but I get pretty lucky because then this run, right? These past 7 picks have been tight end, quarterback, running backs, quarterback, tight end, running back, right? So I don't want running backs. I don't want quarterbacks right now, and I don't want tight ends. So all those picks going just allows the wide receiver position to stay pretty hefty, and an interesting word of choice there, but just to stay pretty loaded, if you will. So let's see what's still left on the board right now. So there's still Devontae Parker, AJ Green, Jarvis Landry, Edelman. Like I'm going to be able to get 2 guys that I actually like here, which is pretty cool. It's just a matter of who goes in these next 2 picks. I'm looking at AJ Green's, Jarvis Landry's, Julian Edelman's, Devontae Parker's here. Let's see who can actually make it to us. So AJ Green and Deshaun Watson go off the board there. So I'm feeling pretty good. I think Jarvis Landry is definitely going to be one of my picks here just because of how much of a floor he has when you draft him, especially if he's a wide receiver 2 or 3 for you. But then we obviously know the upside. I'm also looking at the board. Devontae Parker's there. Julian Edelman and Will Fuller are there. Edelman starts to become a much more interesting option now that Cam Newton is there. Edelman is pretty much a top 30 wide receiver for me. Devontae Parker is my highest ranked guy left. The only concerns I have with Parker is I kind of want now stability at some point. And if there's going to be Tua coming in at week 4, week 5, week 6, whenever Tua is going to start the battle and quarterback controversy breaks in, there might be like 3 or 4 weeks of just really turbulent play, right? We don't know who's going to be the wide receiver 1. It could just completely switch to being Preston Williams or Albert Wilson or Mike Gesicki or more run-heavy approach for like a month, and that crushes a guy like Devontae Parker. Now, if you just say that he's all great, Ryan Fitzpatrick picks up, plays half the year or more than that, and is just hammering Parker like he did last year, even with Preston Williams healthy, and then Tua maybe comes in and it's just the same old, but then yeah, Parker's going to finish as like a borderline top 15 wide receiver. So I think right now I'm going to go ahead with my 2nd pick and take Jarvis Landry here. So we lock up Jarvis Landry and DK Metcalf. That feels very nice. And now it's between Devontae Parker, Edelman, Will Fuller, these types of guys. And they're all right there next to each other in my rankings. Parker does have a lot of upside. I believe that. I don't know how much of it I want to deal with, though. When I look at Julian Edelman, there's some controversy right now if Cam Newton's going to start or not. I would assume that he's going to start. Cam Newton in the past has never really relied on a slot wide receiver. It's Devin Funchess big on the outside. It's checking it down to McCaffrey. It's 2 years ago, DJ Moore towards the end of the season, or your Curtis Samuels. All these outside burners, which is N'Keal Harry in this offense, quote unquote. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. The flashier play here would be Devontae Parker. I would say the more secure overall volume of 120 plus targets or right around there is going to be Edelman. So I think I'm going to go Edelman. Let me know what you would do there. Devontae Parker, Edelman, Will Fuller, those types of names. I think I want to just secure, similar to what Jarvis Landry is, a slot receiver who can go downfield and pick up a dot and just pile on targets, pile on 8 to 10 target type games every single time out there and be a very consistent piece. And if I want to be drafting this quantity over quality thing, I can surely draft the upside picks right now, like starting in around 8, 9, 10, right? Those players that have a ton of upside. But I would like to secure 2 to 3 starting receivers that I can trust for stability reasons. Same way that we did with running backs with my first 3 picks in McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, and Fournette. I think we're doing right now with Metcalf, Jarvis Landry, and Julian Edelman. So we're 7 rounds in. With the 8th and 9th pick, I think I'm just going to go right back to the wide receiver position and double tap that, go 5 in a row there, unless something crazy is on the board at tight end or a quarterback. So let's see what happens as the 7th round ends. In the 7th round went so beautifully for me because only 2 wide receivers went in Brandon Cooks and Devontae Parker. So lots of wide receivers still off on the board. Just a bunch of bad running backs at this point that I don't want to be drafting in the 7th round. Ronald Jones, Tevin Coleman, Keyshawn Vaughn, Marlon Mack. Don't want to be doing that. Some donkey took the same guy at the 3rd pick. He took Raheem Mostert with his 5th pick. Then he takes Drew Brees with his 7th pick. Probably could have got Drew Brees in like the 10th round. And right now I still have on my board 6 quarterbacks ahead of Drew Brees. So pretty bad pick there. But let's see what ends up happening, as there's now only 11 picks until my pick. And there's a ton of good wide receivers. And I obviously know that not only wide receivers are going to go here. So I feel pretty good about maybe getting like a Marvin Jones. Maybe, I mean, right now, maybe even getting somebody like a Will Fuller. So we'll see what ends up falling to us here. So once again, this is going great for us because Will Fuller, Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones, they're all still on the board. And I would take 2 of those guys right now. Even Crowder's still on the board. So these are a bunch of guys that are like right around my top 35 receivers. So what just went off the board was some more decent wide receivers like Debo, Michael Gallup, Deontay Johnson, but guys I wasn't even looking at this pick. So go ahead, take them. Matt Ryan goes in the 8th. He was my 8th overall quarterback. I think that's fine. And then just more bad running backs. Sony Michel, who might be dealing with an injury, gets taken in the 8th. Not great. Tariq Cohen in the 8th, I think is fine. Jordan Howard in the 8th, I think is fine. It's just I don't want to be relying on those guys as my RB4s. So let's see what happens with these last 2 picks. I'd be very happy to land Marvin Jones at this turn. Will Fuller, Christian Kirk, maybe even Crowder. So let's see what happens here. So Will Fuller goes, that's appropriate. Darius Slayton kind of gets reached on. He was my wide receiver 45. I have currently 7 guys still ahead of him, but I like where I'm at. This is a pretty easy decision for me. I look at the board. I don't want Matt Breida. He's the best available running back. I look at the board. I don't want Mike Gesicki right now at tight end. I'll just come back around in the 10th round and snag a tight end. Quarterbacks, there's still like 6 guys I feel fine being my starter. I don't think they'll all go based on the fact that a lot of teams already have a quarterback. So I'm going to go right here at the turn and take Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones, load up wide receiver even more. We get Marvin Jones, who's right now a top 35 receiver for me and is going to slowly start to crack into my top 30 receivers. And then we get Christian Kirk, who's right now my wide receiver 33. As much as people want to get into my mentions and just all over the place in content and say how good Calvin Ridley is going to be this year, why not Christian Kirk? Now, Calvin Ridley's ranked in the top 10 in some people's rankings. I mean, he's my 16th overall, so top 20 in pretty much everybody's rankings. I understand the offense that he's playing in is going to help that happen. I understand he's been very good his first 2 years, and the injuries derailed what was going to be an even more special season last season. But Christian Kirk, injuries last year for a month of the season, derailed what would have been a special season for him. In his rookie year, he was also pretty good. Not as good at scoring touchdowns, like 6 in your first 4 games or whatever Calvin Ridley was doing to start his rookie year, but why not Christian Kirk? He doesn't have to finish top 15 like Calvin Ridley's ADP is suggesting, but why can't Christian Kirk be just as productive as the wide receiver 2 in a fast-paced offense that's going to throw a lot with a pretty good quarterback out there, and then a wide receiver 1 in DeAndre Hopkins who's coming into a new environment and is not named Julio Jones, who's been the stud in his environment for over a decade at this point. So yeah, Christian Kirk to me, we went 5 receivers in a row. So I like the way our draft started. It's very, very trendy in my opinion. Streaky, right? 4 running backs to start this thing, 5 wide receivers. Now in rounds 10 and 11, I would like to tap tight end and quarterback here. Hopefully we didn't wait too long on them. Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. So only 1 tight end goes off the board in that round, and it's Hunter Henry, somebody that I have no interest in drafting. 2 quarterbacks go off the board. Aaron Rodgers, he's my quarterback 15. Not much interest there. Tom Brady's my quarterback 12. Some interest there, but there's still 4 guys ahead of him that I would like. It is worth noting right now, Josh Allen is still on the board in the 10th round. That's pretty crazy. Matt Breida made it to the end of the 9th round. I think that was pretty good value. Philip Lindsay, the last pick of the 9th round. If you're a 0 RB person, I thought that was pretty good value. And I'm looking at Crowder right now. Jamison Crowder, a wide receiver, still in the 10th round on the board. I think he's worthy of like an 8th round pick. So hopefully we get, fingers crossed, Mike Gesicki to drop to us would be great. If not, I think Jonnu Smith would be there, and then we can just get another tight end later on. Quarterbacks that I'm liking, Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Carson Wentz, Cam Newton. One of those guys falls to us. Even Daniel Jones, I feel pretty confident. Even if they were all to go somehow, it's not going to happen. But then you have Jared Goff, Jimmy G, Baker Mayfield. I don't know why I would feel uncomfortable with any of those guys. So you're 2 picks away from my pick. Carson Wentz and Josh Allen go. I'm fine getting Cam Newton or Matt Stafford. I would really like Matt Stafford here. He's a top 10 guy for me this year. Looking at the board, Crowder went at the end of the 10th round. That's good value. Chase Edmonds, 0 RB type of a guy, goes at the end of the 10th round. I think that's fine value. So just looking at it right now, yeah, I'm hoping that Matt Stafford falls to me. And then probably in the 11th round, I just go ahead and I take like a Mike Gesicki. I will also note that sneaky play of the year at this point in drafts, probably won't be sneaky pretty soon. Antonio Brown is still on the board. I think I'll try and get him in the 12th round, in the 12th and 13th turn if nobody else takes him. But let's see what ends up happening here. Would like to get Matthew Stafford. And I don't think I could have ran any more bad than what just happened. Matt Stafford goes off the board to a guy who just took Drew Brees in the 7th round. Was he listening to me, this donkey? And then Daniel Jones goes off the board. So quarterback doesn't get bare. It has dried up now, but Cam Newton's still there for me. He's my 11th overall quarterback. quarterback at this point. Jared Goff, Jimmy G. So at this point, I would just have to draft a backup. If I would have got Matt Stafford, I wouldn't have worried about getting a backup in this draft. But I'm going to go here. I'm going to get my quarterback in Cam Newton. I'm fine with getting to Cam. I'm projecting him for a 500 rushing yard season. I'm projecting him for a 5 rushing touchdown season. That makes him a top 12 quarterback for me. So I'm okay getting him there. And now I want to go to tight ends because by the time the 12th pick comes back around, it might really get dried up here. So my highest ranked guy is number 10, Mike Gesicki, number 11, Jonnu Smith. So I'm pretty fine right now getting to those guys. I'm going to go ahead and grab Mike Gesicki here. Jonnu Smith is somebody that I can get later on. We have 4 rounds left in this draft. The unfortunate thing is it's not an 18 to 22 round draft because it's a mock. If it was in a 22 round draft, then yeah, I would go ahead and I would get Jonnu Smith in like 3 rounds. I would go ahead and get a backup quarterback in like 2 rounds. Since it's not that many rounds and the fact that you have to roster 2 flex spots in this league, I might just go ahead and just draft a bunch of wide receivers and then I just play the waiver wire game with the quarterback position, play the waiver wire game with the tight end position when the time comes if Gesicki was to get hurt. So let's see what ends up happening. I would like to get Antonio Brown with one of my next 2 picks. And then depending on what's left on the board at that point, we'd have 6 receivers. Maybe I look at running back or then maybe I just go with a backup tight end. So the 11th round ends. Anthony Miller, Deshaun Jackson go to close it out. I thought those are some pretty good picks. Duke Johnson goes to close it out. So my top 51 running backs are now off the board in this draft. Not a great place to be if you need running backs still. Like guys like Justin Jackson are going off the board. Boston Scott, not the greatest options, of course. Noah Fant goes off the board at tight end, and Ben Roethlisberger, the only tight ends and quarterbacks to go in that round, just one of each. So let's see what happens as the 12th round goes on. Again, Antonio Brown is one of my targets here. I think I want to get him with one of these 12 or 13 picks. I would hate for him to then go like a pick or 2 before me when I wait for him in the final couple of rounds. So I'd end up getting him there. And then I don't feel the need to take another running back. I got 4 stud running backs. If anything, maybe in the last round, but at this point, I would have 6 receivers if I get Antonio Brown. So maybe I just go ahead and take another tight end. If Jonnu Smith is still there, it'd be hard to ignore him. So I'm 2 picks away from my 12th round pick. It's worth pointing out the best availables for me right now. Jonnu Smith and Dallas Goedert at tight end, even TJ Hawkinson. Quarterback, still Jared Goff, still Jimmy G on the board. You still have Phillip Rivers, all those guys. So quarterback is always so deep as always. Wide receivers, John Brown has still made it this far. Preston Williams, N'Keal Harry, these are names that are still on the board, so that's interesting. And then going to running backs, my top 53 are now gone. Raekwon Armstead, Adrian Peterson. I'm probably not drafting another running back this draft. Let's see what happens with my next 2 picks. So John Brown finally goes off the board. Another rookie that has at least some upside if something happens to Derrick Henry is Darrington Evans. He goes off the board. I'm going to go back-to-back wide receivers again here. So I already have 5 wide receivers. This would make me have 7 with 2 picks left in the draft. I would feel fine leaving this draft with 7 receivers. So one of them is going to be Antonio Brown. So let's go ahead and just get him out of the way right now. I don't know where he's going to be playing, but wherever he's going to be playing, he's going to be better than a whatever it's going to be right now, where he's right now in the beginning or the end of the 12th round. So we snag Antonio Brown there. Feel good about that. If you're the person who right now is getting Antonio Brown in your drafts, you are sharper than the rest of your league mates. And then just looking at the board, lots of good wide receivers still left. N'Keal Harry, Preston Williams. I love me some Denzel Mims, Brashad Perriman, Allen Robinson, Robbie Anderson, right? All these guys, Mike Williams. I'm looking at it right now. I took Cam Newton and I already took Julian Edelman. So kind of have a stack there. I don't really need to go to N'Keal Harry. I'm pretty much investing a lot in the Patriots at that point. Although I like N'Keal Harry this year, this specific team is probably not the one to do it. If I didn't already have Edelman, I might go there. So I'm looking at it and I think Preston Williams is going to be the pick here. I think he's still on the board, which is too late for me. He is my 42nd overall wide receiver. There have been like 12 guys that have already gone after him at the wide receiver position. So we take Preston Williams in the 13th round. I'm usually getting him in like the 11th or 12th round, so he falls a lot. And now we have 2 picks left. These final 2 picks, I think I'm good at the wide receiver position unless somebody else falls. I'm addicted to drafting receivers. I'll look at what's left at running back. Nothing right now is standing out as anything I would want to own. So I might just wait on it and just go with a backup tight end and a backup quarterback depending on what's left. Now, normally in real drafts, again, you have 18 to 22 rounds. You're going to take a backup at each of those positions. In these mocks, I usually don't like to because I like to show you like what type of players I like deeper down the board. But at this point, I think it's appropriate to do so depending on what's left on the board. Let's see how these final couple of rounds end. And obviously, there's nothing left on the board when I tell you 52, 53 other running backs in my rankings are already off the board. So when guys start to take A.J. Dillon's and Carlos Hyde's, A.J. Dillon with 2 running backs ahead of him, I know the draft capital's there, but maybe not for this year, and Carlos Hyde. Can you imagine taking Carlos Hyde right now over guys like Mike Williams, Denzel Mims, Curtis Samuel, Brashad Perriman, Allen Lazard, Hunter Renfrow, Robbie Anderson, Golden Tate? I can keep going. Can you imagine having to do that because you didn't draft good early on? And his last 3 picks have been Boston Scott, Nyheim Hines, and Carlos Hyde. So this guy went 0 running back, and his running backs are Damian Williams, Marlon Mack, Boston Scott, Nyheim Hines, and Carlos Hyde. I don't know in what world, unless you're playing in a huge tournament, and even there I don't think there's a lot of leverage. When you're facing just 11 other people in a regular season league, you have just by far the worst team when those are your running backs. So 0 running back is good in certain situations in big tournaments where the scoring sets up for it to be, well, PPR formats, right, for these pass catching guys. But not in a spot where you're just trying to beat 11 people. It doesn't make sense. So N'Keal Harry finally went in this round. You see some more quarterbacks going. Actually, a lot of quarterbacks start to go off the board. I think Jared Goff is still on the board, which Jared Goff's my quarterback 16. But Jimmy G finally goes off the board. Phillip Rivers and Ryan Tannehill get off the board, and Drew Lock. Tight ends go in TJ Hawkinson and Blake Jarwin. Those are some really good options. Let's see what happens in the 14th round now. So I'm on the clock, and sadly, Jonnu Smith went with the first pick in the 14th round. He was my tight end 11. He was still on the board. Dallas Goedert went as well, so he's now gone. I do have a tight end I'm looking at. Some wide receivers that I thought were good picks in this round. Golden Tate late in the 14th. Mike Williams late in the 14th. Rashad Perriman midway through the 14th. Jerick McKinnon in the 14th is an interesting name, especially for Raheem Mostert actually wants to be traded away. So 2 picks left in this draft. My best available at the wide receiver position is Denzel Mims, but Rashad Perriman, he's gone as well. You have Denzel Mims, Curtis Samuel, Allen Lazard. Those are the types of names I'm looking at. Running back, I don't want anything. The only running backs left in my top 60 are Giovanni Bernard, Malcolm Brown, and Jalen Richard. None of those guys are helping me at this point, this late in the draft. Wide receivers, there's still a lot of good ones left. Tight ends, I think there's still a decent amount left. Tight end, I'm gonna snag a tight end here. I could go quarterback as well and just close my draft with a tight end and a quarterback. But for the purpose of this mock, I'll just let you know that normally there will be more rounds in my drafts, maybe even just one more round, and I'll just get a quarterback then. So I'll go tight end and wide receiver here. Doesn't matter which order I take them in. For tight end, I'm gonna go Chris Herndon, a guy who I really do think, you've seen in a couple of my videos if you have not already, I really do think he has top 10 tight end upside. He showed it in 2018, injured last year and then, well, suspended and then injured last year and then re-injured. Really hurt his upside. So the combo of Mike Gesicki and Chris Herndon, the 2 guys that I really like this year, Gesicki my tight end 10, Chris Herndon my tight end 17. And then to finish the draft out, might as well go and get another rookie receiver that I'm really liking. And at this point, I think it would be my only rookie. I normally draft a ton of rookies at this point. I didn't draft any rookies outside of Jonathan Taylor, but rookie receivers I'm usually all over. But for me, it's going to be Denzel Mims, a guy who can break in right now. He's going to be battling with Rashad Perriman, who was taken recently in this draft. He can break out right away and be the guy on the outside for this team. They're going to need outside receivers. They're going to need somebody to fill the void of Robbie Anderson and somewhat Demaryius Thomas. Crowder in the middle of the field, Herndon in the middle of the field. They need something on the outside. So let's look at my draft overall real quickly. I'll highlight my team right here. So I ended up taking Christian McCaffrey, Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, Jonathan Taylor. Love that. I could have ended up going with some other guys other than Jonathan Taylor. We could have went with Cam Akers. We could have went with Kareem Hunt, but they're fine. And then we load up. We load up on wide receivers. 5 in a row. DK Metcalf, Jarvis Landry, Julian Edelman, Marvin Jones, Christian Kirk. I like all those guys. Those are all types of guys that I'm drafting a lot of this year. And I like the fact that we got quantity and quality. Then rounds 10 and 11, we kind of get sniped on quarterback, wanting to go Matt Stafford. Even if Daniel Jones wouldn't have gone, I still would have went Cam Newton here. So I'm fine with that. We get our guy in Mike Gesicki, a top 10 tight end in my rankings in the 11th round. The next round comes back to us. We take Antonio Brown, who honestly might have been there in the 14th or 15th round. I just rather not take that risk because if he goes to the right spot, he's going to sign with a team, in my opinion. And if he goes to the right spot, he might instantly become like a 5th or 6th round pick. And now you're getting that guy right here. So like imagine taking Antonio Brown in a month where you're taking DK Metcalf and I get him in the 12th round of these types of drafts. Preston Williams is just another younger player, 2nd year undrafted, coming off an ACL tear that I like the upside there. We take a backup tight end just because he was an upside play. He was my only top 20 tight end left, so I figured might as well go for him. And Chris Herndon, my 17th overall tight end, and then Denzel Mims to close it off. I'm not going to end up doing the end of this mock, but that's where we're at right now. Feel pretty good about this. Let me know what you think about my draft. Please do also hit the like button and the big old subscribe button if you're still here with us, and check out my Supreme Draft Guide right now. It's linked down below, just $10, limited time offer only. There's just tons of stuff that's going to be involved in it, whether it's just premium analysis, positional rankings, reliability charts, top 150s, tiers, right? All these types of things, player profiles. You can check it out. It's linked down below. Appreciate you tuning into this one. Go ahead, get the draft guide right now for 66% off thanks to Monkey Knife Fight. All the information down below. Reach out with any questions in the comment section or on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. You all rock. Hit the like and subscribe button before you go, and I will see you in the next one.